when you inherit your year seven cohort, you do it like a baseline assessment because you've got loads of different children from lots of different primary schools. And it's fascinating working in a primary school and seeing the thinking and reflecting on the first year seven lessons that I used to give, because actually our year six are really good. They could probably do more challenging work than I used to pitch at my year sevens initially. So it gives you a kind of a really interesting perspective. So I've learned a lot from that actually.
I'm Dr. Liz Stafford, and this is Primary Music in Conversation. This episode of Primary Music in Conversation is proudly sponsored by ABRSM. ABRSM Classroom 200 provides free online resources for school teachers working with primary students. To learn more and access exclusive resources for primary music teachers, visit classroom200.org. My guests for this episode are Jeanette Kershaw and Louise Kelly from Albert Pye Primary School in Suffolk. Yes, you heard me right, guests. This is the first time we have had two people on the podcast, and I'm really excited to talk to Jeanette and Louise about how they manage music in their school. So welcome, Jeanette and Louise, to Primary Music in Conversation. Could you each introduce yourselves for our listeners, please?
Okay, well, I'm Jeanette Kershaw, and I'm nursery teacher working 2 days a week at the Albert Pye and Ravensmere Federation of Schools. I work in nursery, and I've predominantly worked in EYFS, earliest foundation stage, for 39 years, all told. So I've worked as an earliest consultant for Suffolk County Council, but I've been in this current role for 15 years. I've been EYFS lead, but I have recently stepped back and gone more part-time. And I'm also music lead.
I'm called Louise Kelly, and I work as an HLTA at the school 3 days a week. And I've been doing that for about 4 years now. Originally, I was a secondary school music teacher for 10 years. And then I had a career break to raise my two amazing children. And then I came to this school because my daughter goes to this school as well, and started to teach. Initially, I was doing more of a traditional HLTA role. So covering general lessons, but then for the past 2 years, would you say 2 years, I've been delivering music from year one to year six.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Before we go into the music, I'm just really interested in that trajectory, Louise. So like going from being like a teacher in a secondary school to
Yes.
HLTA in a primary school, and how different that is in terms of
Yeah. It's very, very different. So when I had my children, I did want to stay at home with them and raise them. And then as I think Iona was already in nursery with Mrs. Kershaw when an HLTA job was advertised. And I thought it was a good way to build my confidence back up, because after 10 years, you lose a bit of confidence. And then gradually the music has come from there. But it was a massive transition initially for me personally. But now I think after 2 years, I do feel more confident and I really, really enjoy it. It's very different from secondary, but it's so transferable in terms of because I love my subject so much, obviously, because that's why I did a degree in it. So I can use lots of the skills that I use at secondary school for the primary school children. So I think that is a real strength, actually. And I think I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got the kind of the best balance for you at the current time, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Definitely.
It's interesting because we've talked to a few secondary specialists who've made the move into primary, but it's to be like a teacher and to be
Yeah,
like
I
the
know.
music leader. We've spoken to some HLTAs that run the music in their school, but we've not spoken to anyone with quite that background. So I think that'll be interesting as we go through the
Yeah.
discussion today. So can I ask how the relationship works between the two of you? Who does what? Who's in charge of what? How do you structure music in your school?
So basically, I do the admin, and Louise does the music.
Yeah, Mrs.
Really.
Kershaw's really good. She does all the she leads me, she does, and she puts up with lots of my emails and oh, let's try and do this, or can we do this? And she yeah, so she supports me massively. And I do, and you've really helped to like
We've worked on the curriculum
yeah, I was
together,
going to
haven't
say
we?
for the curriculum, initially, I would say for the past 2 years, we've really worked hard on that. And Jeanette's done a lot of work making sure that that's in place and in line with all the frameworks that it needs to be.
Yeah.
Um,
We wanted to make sure that the children were getting a consistent and
yes,
something that challenged them
yes,
in their music, because what was there before was quite sketchy. There was music happening,
there was.
but it was very ad hoc, really,
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
it?
really it's really been consolidated now. And
we can see that the continuity is leading
yeah,
to progression.
it's
We can
amazing.
see the progression.
What is
So each
amazing?
year
Yeah,
group, it's getting
sorry.
better each year, isn't
It
it?
is absolutely. It's in terms of seeing, because I think our current year five, I taught them from year two and from year three, and to see musically how good they are now in comparison, and the development of them is really really exciting. Actually, they are producing some really really good work that I'm really really proud of. So just I'm so lucky to see all these children go throughout the school, if that makes sense. I think I've digressed from your question now, Liz. Sorry.
No, that was going to be sort of my next kind of port of call in terms of finding out what's happening. So, early years, you're teaching your own music, is that right? And then everything else is taught from year one up by Louise. Is that how it's working?
Yes. So I teach music in nursery, but music, we do have a bespoke music session in nursery each week, but music is throughout our continuous provision. So we have a little music area with instruments, and we do have a CD player that the children can access by themselves, because they just love to be able to have some power over what they do and to make choices. So there's always music in nursery. We use song and rhyme all the way through the day. It's so important. So we have songs for tidy up time. We have songs for coming together as a circle. We have welcome songs at the beginning of and end of every session, and it's so everything is grounded in rhyme and music, really. And I think it's a real strength, isn't it?
It is definitely. I was lucky enough to go and see a nursery session when we were doing one of our reviews, and it was it's just so
it's a way
natural.
of gathering them.
It's just the
way
way
of
it works
gathering
is so
children
natural.
together, and it's how I think it's how they begin to learn that they're part of a community.
Yeah, it's lovely.
The music gives them that community feel and that community voice.
Definitely.
That they're working together as a team.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It is very powerful. Yeah. Definitely.
And then in reception, our reception is delivered by, we have another HLT who actually is also musical.
Yeah, she's very musical. Yeah,
we're fortunate, really. And she delivers the reception music. So she knows what happens in nursery. She builds on what happened in nursery, and she begins to use we've got an online music platform that she's beginning to use. And we just and then you build on from
and then I build on it from year one up to year six. They have an hourly lesson with me every week.
And are you using a particular resource or scheme for that, or is it something you've created yourself, or a mixture?
So am I allowed to name the scheme?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so we worked very closely with the hub, Norfolk Music Hub, and as part of that package, we got a reduced rate for Charanga. In fact, I think the first year we got a very, very reduced rate for Charanga. So we used that as our basis. And the first year, I'd say we kind of did work through that quite religiously, didn't we? But then with the Charanga package, there was a lovely consultant that was part of the package, and we've met with him a couple of times, didn't we? And we talked about our school and our children and what they need, and he was really helpful in helping us make it more bespoke, rather than just religiously, because by the time they got to year six, they're very fed up of glockenspiels and it can be very samey. So he's helped us draw, because there's so much on that platform, that you don't realise is there. So we've done a youth studio.
We've done lots of different topics, but also with we don't just use it as a blanket program. So if there's an element that is very interesting for 1 week, I will spend longer on that element. So for example, in year 4, I think recently they listened to some medieval music, and I was like, oh, that's a great opportunity to play some modes and talk about what they sound like. And they came up with some fantastic ideas, and then to actually learn them and then compose. So we'll often go off the scheme slightly, but it's triggered by the scheme, if that makes sense. I would say a real strength with our use of Charanga as well is our ability to stretch our more able pupils, because some of the performance work is really quite challenging, and frequently we will have the stronger musicians working on the more challenging work and then coming together with everybody else. So it's been a very, very useful resource.
And what we've done is we've put together medium term plans for every year group, sort of across each class, really, haven't we? Where we've added in our own bespoke things that Louise knows works. As we try different things, it's constantly changing.
It's very fluid, because also it's fluid per cohort as well. So for example, our year 5s this year needed something very different to our year 5s last year, so we've changed our modules, and they have responded really, really well to that.
And of course, music is an ever-changing thing, isn't it, really? And new things come online, and they're interested in different things, aren't they? And something catches out in the world, and they're like, oh, we have a go at that sort of thing. So we try and build on what they know, but equally it's giving them that balance, isn't it? And knowing where music has come from in the past.
Because it's exposure, because they won't necessarily be exposed to some of the music that we play them. Particularly, we have a specific music of the week every week, and we've got a whole breadth of different styles of music, which is lovely, because it's played we have daily assemblies, and it's played every day, and I use that in lessons as well. We talk about it in more depth, so they're getting an exposure to a whole variety of genres and musical time periods and everything. It's really.
I did base that on the model music curriculum, because there's a recommended listening list in the model music curriculum, so I kind of looked at that as a starting point, but within that we've put in other things as we hear things.
Absolutely.
We just add things in.
I think it's so interesting, isn't it, that music's probably the only subject that children do more of outside school than they do inside school, because it's just there and all around them, isn't it? So I think you're right that you want to embrace the things that they're bringing to you, but also broaden out to the things that they may not be encountering themselves.
And it's interesting, because quite often we do monitoring of our subjects, in all subjects across the school, and part of that very much is talking to the children and capturing their pupil voice. And I did one recently. Quite often they'll say, oh, we'd like to listen to some more interesting music, but when you really challenge them about what that means, you get some interesting answers back. And but one little girl, she said, I love the classical music, because at the moment we've got quite a lot of classical music.
It's a very classical heavy term, isn't it?
And but she said that she loves it, and I said, what is it about it? Why do you love it? And she said, because I find it so. She said, I find it so calming. And I thought,
that's interesting.
Is all classical music calming? And then you can start to have challenging conversations with it, can't you? So it's really interesting. And I'm not a music specialist, so I'm kind of very much with the children, sort of thinking, you're often sharing different things with me that I've not heard. So it's
already my brain's buzzing with all the different kind of classical music you could listen to to decide whether classical music is calming. When I did my PhD at Sheffield, there was a team there. It was quite well known for music psychology. There's a big department for that there. My PhD was not in that; it was in something even less useful than that. But I remember one of the teams there doing a study, and they found out that the type of music that you listen to in your car directly affects how the likelihood of you having an accident, and I'm afraid classical music is right at the top of the list, or at least it was then when they did that study. It's a thing that's most likely to make you crash your car. I'm sure there are other variables like the general age of people who listen to classical music and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, you would think it would be sort of heavy metal or something scary, but no,
Yeah,
apparently, yeah,
Yeah.
driving along, vibing out to Mozart is your most dangerous time of the day. So there you are. Perhaps we won't share that with, year one and two, but it's definitely not always calming. So can I ask you about extracurricular? What kind of stuff is going on that children can opt into?
So we have a fabulous choir actually. We have a lovely she was a HLTA
yeah,
hit, and
she's
she's
fabulous.
continued on with choir for us. She runs a choir in the local an adult choir in the local
She
area,
does.
and she comes and does our children's choir. And they are really good, aren't
They
they?
are really good, and it's a key stage one through to key stage two. So it's a whole school choir basically that we do for three
Yeah, so
quarters of an hour every Tuesday. So
yeah.
we
And
have
they will
that.
perform, they perform in the
Lots,
town at
yeah,
local events, care homes. We've got a dementia group that they go and perform to. So it gets them out into the
yeah.
world as well and builds on their cultural capital,
Yeah,
which
and
is really
Sarah
important.
sometimes brings in, so there's been some collaboration between her adult choir and the school choir where they've come into the school and they've sung together. And I think she's looking to doing that
Yeah.
in the future. She's also been fabulous and just started a staff choir,
Yes, which we're heading off to
yeah,
tonight.
which we've got tonight. And again, she wants to do, I think she's thinking about doing some joint repertoire so the staff can sing with the children.
Yeah.
We have a ukulele group, don't
Yeah.
we? We have a ukulele group, and that depends what year, doesn't it? Molly does it for
Yeah.
year ones and twos, and then threes and fours.
Yeah.
Um,
And we got funding for the ukulele. So we've got a school
yeah,
set of
yeah,
ukuleles which were funded from the PFA. So we've got a really fabulous
yeah.
PFA.
We do. Extracurricular is fairly limited. We have lots of ideas, but because I'm only working 3 days a week,
Mm.
um, the time it's the stretch of time is
It is,
hard,
yeah.
isn't it? I would
That is a
say
challenge for
it
us.
is a challenge.
But we use the peripatetic service.
Yeah,
So we can offer through them we offer guitar, don't
yeah.
we?
I've got a little guitar on the
We
side.
have clarinet, which kind of comes under the curriculum offer, but they get it in year four, get their clarinets in addition to their weekly, so they get extra music.
Mm.
And so we have whole class clarinet teaching.
Oh, so let me just check that. So that's in addition to the curriculum music that they're already
Yeah,
getting.
Yes,
they're very
Ah, you're
lucky.
doing it right. There are very
It's
yes,
few
really
schools who are
good.
doing it how it
I
was meant to
know.
be. That was always meant to be the case. Was it
Yeah.
meant to be in addition, not instead of? How are you making
Um,
that? Sorry to go off on a tangent. How are
no,
you making that
no.
work table wise? Has that been tricky to try and get it all in?
I think it does squash the curriculum a bit for the year fours, but they seem to have made it work, don't
Yeah, and
they?
our head teacher is really supportive.
Yeah,
She's
our head
very,
teacher's really passionate about the art,
yeah,
and
she's,
she's really passionate that by the end of their primary school experience, children know she said today she
yeah,
wants them
she
to know
did.
there's an arts pathway for everybody if you want to
Yeah,
go down
she's
that
great. She's
pathway.
so incredibly supportive. And I think
Yeah.
the fact that they get that dual offer of the instrumental teaching and the music lesson is fabulous for them,
So
actually.
pretty much if we go and say we've had this idea or we think this would work,
Yeah,
if you can justify it in educational terms and need
yeah,
for the children, she's really supportive.
yeah,
So we're fortunate like that.
yeah, she's excellent.
We've got a couple of private tutors that come in as well, and they offer flute, clarinet,
Piano,
recorder,
saxophone.
piano, and saxophone. Yeah.
Oh wow,
So
so a lot going on.
yeah, yeah, and some of when Louise is teaching the children, obviously we know which children are pupil premium, which children ascend in the class. Um, and so we know some of the barriers that may be there for
Yes.
some of those children. So we funded some lessons.
Yeah, it was really
haven't we?
interesting. There was one child in particular that I sort of noticed, and I was like, oh, if ever there is a chance of a bursary or anything comes up, because sometimes these things do arrive. And I emailed Jeanette and our head, and she was immediately
Yeah.
supportive. And he is doing so incredibly well. Honestly, he's doing really, really well learning the piano. So it's that's been a real
and
privilege to witness.
We've loaned
actually,
instruments to other
yeah,
children,
we've
haven't
loaned
we? Because
instruments.
we're quite fortunate in that we've got quite a few instruments.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
we
are
did
lucky.
inherit, you know, a well-resourced music
Yeah,
department.
absolutely. I would say.
And so that's helped us then to support some of the children who couldn't afford to buy an instrument or even to loan one, really. So I think one of the biggest barriers really is cost, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, cost of really specific training for children is a barrier for us, but we just have to try and be as creative as we can.
Yeah.
So parents will pay for those private lessons that come in, and also for the hub one, but the hub guitar lessons are at a reduced rate, so they get quite a good deal with that.
Yeah. So obviously, Louise, coming from that secondary background, have you got your mind on like preparing them for secondary, and does that filter into what's on offer in terms of?
It's interesting because my son has just started secondary school as well at the our main feed. We feed that high school, so when he comes home with music work, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I sometimes use what the year sevens are doing. We're trying to establish more of a link with our secondary school, but I would say also with our planning, because in up until year 5, it's largely glockenspiel work that we do, so tune percussion. But when they get to year 5, we introduce keyboard work with them, which is focused a lot in the secondary school as well. So I would say I do have a mind on what they need to, the stage that they need to be at before they go to year 7. And what's really interesting is when you inherit your year 7 cohorts, you do like a baseline assessment because you've got loads of different children from lots of different primary schools. And it's fascinating working in a primary school and seeing the thinking and reflecting on the first year 7 lessons that I used to give, because actually our year 6 are really good. They could probably do more challenging work than I used to pitch at my year 7s initially. So it gives you a kind of a really interesting perspective. So I've learned a lot from that, actually, because I think lots of my year 6 I'm teaching like I would teach year 7, actually, in terms of content and ability, and they can do it. They definitely can do it.
Yeah, this is something that I hear a lot actually from secondary colleagues who move into primary. They're quite actually kind of surprised almost at, and there is that sort of thing, isn't there, where secondary say, "Well, primaries don't do any music or they don't do the right music or something," but actually. I think sometimes that just gets lost in translation. I think children leave one school, they join another school. It's been 6 weeks. Somebody says to them, "What have you done?" They can't really remember. They say nothing, and that's that kind of taken as read sometimes.
With year 7, it takes you a while to get to know them because we've had them all the way through. That's the other advantage. We know the strengths that the children have, and that's a real blessing.
Yeah, and I suppose when you're in Key Stage 3, you've probably only got them once a week or maybe even once every 2 weeks. So it takes a long time to build up that level of
You've got a lot of children.
Knowledge.
You've got a lot of year 7s.
Yeah, that is true. Yes, yes. Your average secondary school generally quite a lot bigger than your average primary school. Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things that's just it's always going to be a problem, isn't it? Transition. I think just because it always is, because moving from one institution to another is always going to be a bumpy process, but it's interesting how the same kind of issues come around so many times, and it'd be good to feel like at some point we could solve them on a sort of national level, but I don't know whether that will ever happen. But certainly sounds like if you've got the majority of children going to one particular school, that must make it easier to make those kind of links than if you'd got them spread across 20, 30 different schools, which can be the case. So can I ask, you've obviously you've got your curriculum in a really good place, you've got your extracurricular happening, can I ask, just go back to the staff choir and ask you how that's working, and like, is it something that is optional, is it something that everybody has to do, or how is that organized?
No, it's definitely optional. It's an optional choice for people if they just want to. But it's been We've only had one, haven't we?
It's in its very, very early
Yeah.
stages. So we
But it was
had,
really, the first one was really well
and it was,
supported, wasn't it?
I was speaking to, it was interesting because we had a conversation. Someone asked us if we had a staff choir. And we said no. And then there was a conversation in the staff room where people randomly were talking about a staff choir. It was a totally unconnected conversation. So I spoke to Sarah and said, "Oh, have you thought about doing a staff choir, Sarah?" And she put out an initial group text message, and lots of people were really enthusiastic about doing it. So we've had one rehearsal, we've got our other one this evening. And it was good, the first one, wasn't it?
It's good. It very much puts you into the position of the child.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this the other week about how you need to feel emotionally safe.
You really do. Yeah.
Because our children a couple of years ago really weren't singing, were they?
No.
Really across the school. No. And we said this year was our year for getting the school
We've worked
singing.
really hard at that, actually.
And we've put a couple of things in place, haven't we? And it's really having a positive impact. But having done staff choir, you kind of sit there thinking, "Oh, crikey, am I going to start on the right note? Am I going to sound right?" You feel quite vulnerable. I think it does you good, actually, to sit there and
exposing, isn't it?
And watching the staff choir, it's like having a class. You've got the table being silly over there. You've got the serious ones over here. The ones trying to do their best. The ones really concentrating. The ones sort of a bit nervous. It's fascinating watching it.
Oh, well, I hope that continues and goes from strength to strength. It'd be interesting to see how that all works out. And what other plans do you have for the future of your music provision?
So we very much would like to continue to build our links with the high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to continue our work with the hub. So Krista from Norfolk Music Hub has been in. We had a lengthy discussion with her, didn't we? Because we'd love to be able to offer more ensemble work, but A, it's having the manpower, and B, the experience, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And she's gone away, and she said this is something that they're looking into. So hopefully within our local area or within our trust schools, rather than just doing it in your own school, we might be able to do a sort of trust or a local area ensemble, whether it's a wind ensemble or a small orchestra. So hopefully that's something that will be in the pipeline in the future. Just lots of opportunities of getting our children out, because we live in quite a low mobility area. So it's mainly a white British area, low mobility. People tend to move here and stay here, and don't tend to go out of the local area much, do they? So it's very much putting those opportunities in place for the children. So we take them to Lion King, but through the hub, something came through, and the RBO were offering £7 tickets plus some help with coach costs, because where we are, our coach costs are significant. So I think we've managed to book that, haven't we, for November? We've got a group going down to the RBO to watch the Nutcracker, I think it is, they've chosen. So it's just it's sourcing those opportunities for us.
We are really lucky because we're very near, I'm sure you've heard of it, Snake Maltings. So we're quite near to Snake Maltings. So we have for 2 years been able to take the children to the Big Sing, which has been an absolutely amazing experience on both times, because the repertoire that they've given them has actually been quite challenging. So we've had to really persevere. And the work, when the ladies come in, or whoever, it's been ladies both times leading the workshops, they've been absolutely fantastic. So we hope that we can continue with that as well, because some of these children haven't been to a concert hall and venue to perform, and it really is such a special experience when we do that. So I'd like to continue with that when definitely.
And building on our curriculum, certainly as a school we're looking at assessment, and we have our assessment in music, don't we?
We do.
I think it's pulling that more. We need to put it more together with the whole school assessment, don't we? So that's definitely something we've got to do. And Louise would really like a music room.
I'd love a music room.
We're all through primary now, so from nursery all the way through to year 6, whereas before we were a primary and a middle school. So we've been joined together. And we are very full. The school is always full, and there just isn't a spare space.
No, so
So
I go from room to room with the
Hmm.
glockenspiels until my lovely Thursdays when a year six teacher's really kind and she vacates her room, and I'm based over in the year six area next to the music cupboard. So we can get all the keyboards out, we can do djembe drumming, and we can do samba drumming because we just can't do that if we're moving everything
Yeah.
everywhere. So a space would be, and it's just nice to have, yeah, your own. Because
maybe
sometimes,
one day there'll be a magic pot of gold and
yeah,
we'll have a marvelous music department built.
maybe, maybe at the
That'd be
end of the
lovely.
rainbow.
You're more likely to pin your hopes on falling roll, which sounds a terrible thing to say to a school, but the birth rate has gone down, hasn't it? And a lot of schools are facing like the idea that
Yeah,
they're going to have fewer pupils coming up. So that might free up a room at some point.
it
But
might do.
I think
It
that's
do.
more likely than you finding a leprechaun who's going to give you a whole pile of cash. I think. Can I just ask you one final question, Louise, out of interest? Would you go
Yes.
back to secondary teaching now?
Oh, that's a good question.
I, it's an interesting question. I haven't done it for a long time. So I would have to, before I made that choice, I would have to go and have a look at some secondary schools and spend some time in the department. Um, I really loved my secondary school teaching career up until having my son. I really, really did enjoy it. I particularly loved teaching the GCSE children. I absolutely adored that. So it's something I really enjoyed, but I am also really, really loving this. I'm really, really enjoying, particularly seeing the way children develop. It's so exciting. And like I've been teaching year five this morning, and we've been doing some samba drumming, and I'm just so excited that they're just so rhythmically correct at the moment. And it's just brilliant because you see last year, yeah, they were good, they were rhythmically correct, but this year they're really, really, so I love it here as well. I've always wanted to, even though I studied music, I had an amazing primary school music teacher, so I've always really thought that I'd want to work in education anyway. So maybe is the answer to that question. I don't know. I don't know. I am really enjoying what I'm doing at the moment.
Well, let's leave it there before we cause you to have an existential crisis, shall we?
I know I'm on the edge.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. It's been fascinating to listen to how you're organising your music at school, and good luck with everything in the future. I'm sure it will all continue to go really well. So thank you once again, Jeanette and Louise from Albert Pye.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed that episode. It was interesting to talk to two people at the same time. Hopefully, we didn't all talk over each other too much in that episode. And really interesting to see how Jeanette and Louise worked together, and with Jeanette being the sort of oversight and the kind of, I guess, the primary pedagogy and policy knowledge, and then Louise bringing that music specialist knowledge in as well to work together. And of course, their other HLTA colleague who's also doing little bits and pieces along the way. Sounds like they've got really interesting curriculum, some really nice extracurricular stuff happening. Really fascinated to see how that staff choir develops over the years. Maybe they'll be ready to do a performance sometime soon. It would be interesting to know. And I just think it's, again, every episode makes me think about how schools are so different. And when we originally started the podcast way back when, it was because I was kind of sick of hearing the same old story about music. Schools don't do music. Music's not happening in schools. Primary schools don't do music. Kids can't read music. Kids can't play instruments. And what I think we've done with this podcast is countered that narrative really, really well, but also shown how much variety. It's not just schools are doing music, it's schools are doing music and they're all doing it in all these different, tiny little, incrementally different ways. And I just think it's so lovely that schools are still in the position where they can be that bespoke and where they can really think about the children in front of them and about what will work best for them and what will work best for their communities, and take all of that into consideration when they're creating something that's often quite a special and unique model of music education. If you enjoyed that episode, please do subscribe to us wherever you're listening, or on YouTube if you're watching the video version. You can also talk to us and follow us on our socials, which are at Music Ed Solution on most of them, and on Facebook and LinkedIn we are Music Education Solutions. We would love to hear from you. We're always interested in knowing if you would like to be a guest on the podcast. We are thinking about season 5, which we'll start recording in the autumn term, so do get in touch if you would like to be considered for that, and join us for the next episode, which will be released in 1 week's time. We'd like to thank ABRSM for sponsoring this episode of Primary Music in Conversation. ABRSM Classroom 200 is a free online resource for school teachers working with students up to the age of 14 worldwide. If you're a music educator looking for creative lesson plans, visit classroom200.org to find out more. Primary Music in Conversation is presented by Dr. Liz Stafford, edited by Kay Charlton, and produced by Music Education Solutions.